There's always lots to talk about the Tokyo Bar 23 sneaker channel, but we're flipping it round and we're starting with the shoe first and keeping the chat till later. So let's ship all that chat till the end of this video and dive straight into these shoes, the Game Royals, with the first and biggest point on these guys. Unusually, the insole. This is the part of the shoe that I think is going to catch people a little bit by surprise, and it's going to be the one thing on it that people are looking at and saying, wow, that's a little bit different from what I was expecting, and that means it's the shoe I'm more interested in getting my hands on. So what we're talking about is basically a blue and white dunk high, not an SB dunk high, but a standard dunk high, and it's in those two tones. But when you take a look down on the inside, you see that solid blue insole, and then there's solid orange branding on there with the Nike and the swoosh. And I think it's that little detail in there that stands us apart from other dunk highs that come in these simple two-tone looks. Now, there are a lot of dunk highs out there right now. We've done a few recently. We had the was it the 277s, a Porsche mashup with the dunk highs, and there's another one as well. It's going to take me a second to come to it, but it's not unusual for the Tokyo Bar 23 sneaker channel to be looking at dunk highs. But when it comes to simple standard colorways, no collaborations, you know what it was? It was the Kebab and Destroys. Yummy, that was a nice shoe. And actually, speaking of those shoes, I'm shooting this on Sunday night, which is the 20th of June, and tomorrow morning, in less than 12 hours, those Porsches are going to be dropping on the sneakers app, so fingers crossed for a W there. But like I say, there's been a few dunk highs coming down the line in the last couple of weeks, as has there been throughout 2021. It's been quite a big year for the higher version of the dunks, but still, the dunk lows are still coming thick and fast as well. But like I said, these simple two-tone colorways, a very basic looking shoe, they're a little bit less common these days because of all those collaborations. I think the All-Star Weekend even had one as well, if I remember rightly. So when they do come along, they have to do something a little bit special, some kind of twist in there, just to add a little bit extra in. And the one thing I can see on these guys that adds that little bit extra in is that orange branding on the dark blue insole. So aside from that, it's all standard stuff, and we're going to take a look at that standard stuff right now. Now, there's one place that they could have done something a little bit different to shake it up with as well, and I'm not entirely sure what they were thinking in this place. There might be reasons behind it, there might be some kind of special message in it, or it could just be standard. And what we're talking about is the tongues up there, and it looks kind of standard. You know, you're just like, yeah, blue and white, it's a blue and white shoe, Game Royal, game over. But it isn't actually just that. It's the fact that the tongue is white and the branding panel is white. I would have expected on a white tongue a blue branding panel and white branding. So you've got that sort of contrast between the tongue and the branding panel, and then you've got the contrast between the branding panel and the actual branding. But what they've gone for on these guys is a little bit different in that they've got the white tongue and then the white branding panel, and then on both of those you get that blue branding with the Nike swoosh. So that's a little bit of a detail, a little bit of an interesting point on the shoe that maybe people are kind of picking up on, and that alongside the orange branding on the insoles is probably as far as out there we get with this very standard dunk high in two tones. And so the rest of the shoe to look at, there's a few things to talk about before we get to kind of controversy with these shoes and their drop date, which kind of is highlighting Nike's tie-up with sweatshops in East Asia. Not a very good view, or not very good optics for the Nike line, but we'll get to that in a minute after we've actually looked at the shoe in terms of construction and colorways. And what we're talking about is a very solid, very simple quality leathers on here. There's nothing tumbled on there. There's no special textures to the leathers, nothing unique or special in the colors. It's all the dark blue and the white to give us that Game Royal feel. And just like the lows, it has that line that runs front to back on the shoe, and they're staying true to that. We talked about the classic green. I want to say the classic green dunk lows, or whatever it was called. It'll be up on the green screen behind me here, and you'll see that line that I'm talking about was black for the front half of the shoe and then flipped to green for the black back half of the shoe. So we're talking toe, quarter line, laces, and ankle to heel. And that single line is very often in a single color. And when we look at these dunk highs today, the Game Royals, they aren't disappointing with that standard shoe, standard line that runs from the toe box in that sort of royal blue up the ankle, not the ankle, the quarter line onto the laces and down into the ankle and heel section. All solid, royal blue, all solid, beautiful leathers, all solid dunk high. And then we look at the white panels that sort of offset, and there's two real major places to do that. The ankle does have white on there, but basically it's the toe box panel in all white and then the midfoot in all white. And it was I want to go with the Porsches of the two that we did recently, I think it was the Porsche ones that had a very heavily perforated midfoot on them and not the kebab and destroy ones, but I might be wrong in that. It's, memory gets a bit fuzzy when you're doing daily videos every single day. But a heavily perforated midfoot section does not appear on these guys. It's your standard white fare, and then on top of that, stretching between the white midfoot into the blue ankle/heel section, you've got the blue swoosh to complete the look at the shoe. So it's very, very standard. I suppose one of the things about these 2 tones versus 3 tone dunks, because they sometimes have 3 tone ones, and the main reason why the 3rd tone is on there is if the upper is, for example, deep blue and yellow, then if the midfoot, the midsole is in white, it gives it that 3rd color in there. But if that panel, the panels on the toe box and the midfoot are in white already and they stay with the white midsole, then it's very much a 2-tone sneaker, and that's exactly what's going on. These guys, you can see that white midsole in there completing the 2 tones from above and not 3. And then completing the shoe in total, we have a look at the outsole and you see that deep blue royal, game royal colour that goes front to back on the outsole. No deviations, nothing in there, no little hits of white or anything to sort of spruce it up. It's all game royal blue and all very, very solid. Very standard dunk high fare with these guys. But what isn't standard is the drop date, and this is where we get into that controversy that I was talking about earlier, because these guys, and I'll show you this, it's from Sneaker News, I think I saw this up there, and it says that the drop date for these guys in North America is June 29th, and that's why I decided to do the shoe. But what it also says is that the EU drop date was June the 11th, and like I say, I'm shooting this on June the 20th, which is nine days after the EU drop date, but 9 days before the US drop date. And I think I'm remembering it correctly that I saw these on the Sneakers app here in Tokyo, Japan. And this is a thing that highlights that controversy and highlights sweatshops for me, because what I'm seeing is that the reason that the European Union and Europe are getting these ahead of North America is because it's a lot easier to go from Asia to Europe than it is from Asia to North America. Asia to North America is a massive sea-bearing trade route that's very, very difficult to maneuver, to sort of traverse. And not only do you have to do that for the west coast of America, to get to the east coast you have to go down to Central America and the Panama Canal, across there through the Caribbean and up to the east coast of America. So very, very difficult to go from the East Asian production centers to get to North America, whereas from East Asia to Europe you've got a lot of land options as well as sea options. And basically what I'm seeing is there's a huge disruption in the world's seafaring lanes right now, not only because of some problems with small specific things, but basically in Southeast Asia, especially China, a few hotspots popped up with the pandemic, which absolutely crippled global shipping. And that's why I'm seeing this as a drop date as the 29th in the US and the 11th in the EU. And that highlights the fact that these guys were probably, I don't know for sure, but were probably produced in Southeast Asia, and therefore it highlights the sort of cheap labor that Nike are using to make their shoes. So it's not a good visual for Nike and not a good thing for them to be having out there. The pandemic is highlighting all sorts of things around the world, including some dodgy business practices. So Nike, you might want to do a little bit better with the visuals, if not actually do a little bit better with the production. And with that being said, it's time just to wrap this one up. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. Like I said, we flip things around these days and just go into the shoe fast and furious, straight in there without any chat. Look at the shoe in tiny detail and the important parts of it, and then the major details on the shoe, and then out into the conversation and the chat kind of stuff. And that is an entire 180-degree flip on what I was doing, which would have started with chat, general details, and then specific details. So hopefully you're appreciating that and you're liking this way to look at sneakers. I'm kind of appreciating doing it. So fingers crossed it's working out for me as much as it's working out for you guys out there. For now though, it's time just to wrap another one up. We're on day 928 as we march towards 1,000 consecutive days on YouTube without a single day missed, 7 days a week, no holidays, nothing to break this thing up, as we're on to 928 days. So another, 72 days, which is about 2 months, and we'll get to that magical 1,000 consecutive days on YouTube number. Fingers crossed. For now though, it's time for me to wrap this one up, sign off, and thank you guys for checking out the content. And I'll say the same thing that I say at the end of every single video, which is that I do this every single day. And that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.